What's it like for you to celebrate this monumental album? And does it feel like it's been 40 years?
Well, no, it doesn't. Not at all. I mean, there's a few lines and stuff. But
Still looking good.
It doesn't feel too long. It's amazing, really. Yeah, I can't believe it seemed to have gone by in a flash,
He was tranquilized by the Thai military during a hotel rampage and once blackmailed his own record label by handing his master tapes to a drug dealer. But at nearly 70, the man who snarled his way through the 80s now reads bedtime stories to his grandkids while sipping herbal tea. But here's one for you. James Cameron once cast Billy Idol in a major Hollywood blockbuster, but after a crash, the role went to someone else. What was the movie? Drop your guess in the comments, we'll reveal the answer later. Stay tuned for Hollywood mansions, near-death motorcycle crashes, and the moment this punk legend found redemption in fatherhood and fitness. But to truly understand the man behind the leather, we've got to go back to where it all started, because his formative years hold twists you won't see coming. Early life. In the late 1950s, England was still shaking off the dust of the war years. Families like the Broads, Billy Idol's family, were trying to find their place between tradition and a rapidly shifting cultural tide. Born William Michael Albert Broad on November 30th, 1955 in Stanmore, Middlesex, he was raised in a household shaped by faith, discipline, and a firm Anglican upbringing. His mother, Joan, was a warm Irish homemaker. His father, William, a salesman with strict standards and little patience for daydreams. In 1958, the family packed up for a bold move across the Atlantic, landing in Patchogue, Long Island, before settling in Rockville Center, New York. For Billy, aged 2 to 6 at the time, America felt electric. But when the family returned to England in 1962, that electric charm turned isolating. Back in Surrey with a thick Yankee accent, Billy was mocked as the Yank. That outsider feeling never quite left him. By the early 70s, the Broads had moved again, this time to Bromley. Billy, now a teen, drifted through school with restless disinterest. One teacher scribbled "Billy is idle" across his work. Instead of shrinking from the insult, he turned it into a statement. Billy Idol. The snarl was born from rejection, the name from ridicule. At 13, he stood front row as a then-unknown Black Sabbath performed, Ozzy's fringe brushing his face. By 15, he was experimenting with LSD, and before long he'd fallen in with the notorious Bromley contingent, following the Sex Pistols and pushing the boundaries of fashion and fear. One night, a gang of older teddy boys surrounded him on Hammersmith Bridge, threatening to beat him for dressing like a punk. They let him go, but the warning was clear. Being different had its price. Yet that price only fueled his fire. He didn't want to fit in. He wanted to stand out. Still, being a teenage misfit with a mohawk and a vision was only the beginning. What came next would catapult Billy Idol from suburban shadows to the global spotlight. Career and success. By the late 1970s, Billy Idol wasn't just a punk fan anymore. He was shaping the scene himself. Channeling the outsider energy that haunted his school years and the raw thrill he felt at that Black Sabbath gig, he co-founded Generation X with friend Tony James. They were bold, glam, and hungry, but creative tensions simmered beneath the surface. Billy wanted global impact. James leaned toward art punk. By 1981, Idol packed his leather and left for New York City, chasing something bigger. He arrived in Manhattan with ambition, bleach blonde hair, and not much else. Living in a tiny West Village apartment, he linked up with producer Keith Forsey and guitarist Steve Stevens. The chemistry was instant. With MTV just emerging, Idol's snarling charisma and cinematic videos turned him into a new kind of rock star, equal parts menace and model. White Wedding, Rebel Yell, and Eyes Without a Face weren't just hits. They were aesthetic statements, but success came with chaos. In 1983, unhappy with his record label's proposed cover art for Rebel Yell, Billy stole the master tapes and handed them to his heroin dealer. His threat was simple: fix the cover or the album goes public, bootleg style. It was pure Idol, impulsive, strategic, dangerous, and it worked. And then came the crash, literally. In 1990, riding his Harley Bone Shaker through Hollywood, he ran a stop sign and smashed into a car.
Sinai Medical Center and underwent a 7-hour operation performed by 3 surgeons for a fractured left forearm and a compound fracture of his right leg between the knee and ankle.
His leg was nearly amputated, and just like that, he lost the role James Cameron had cast him in, the iconic T-1000 villain in Terminator 2. That missed opportunity was a wake-up call. Sometimes drug addiction messes things up, he admitted later. Yet Idol wasn't done. He pushed forward with charmed life, dove into the cyberpunk scene before anyone else, and decades later collaborated with Miley Cyrus and Joan Jett on his 2025 comeback album, Dream Into It. Nonetheless, the louder his career roared, the more chaotic his private life became, and the real story lived not just on stage, but in the wild, reckless rhythm behind the scenes. Sex, drugs, and tranquilizer darts. By the late 80s, Billy Idol wasn't just living the rock star dream, he was pushing it past the edge of reality. His lifestyle was the stuff of whispered legend, drugs, decadence, and a constant stream of chaos. But nothing tops the moment in 1989 when a vacation in Thailand turned into international scandal. What was meant to be a detox sex holiday spiraled into weeks of heroin binges, trashed hotel rooms, and violent outbursts, so extreme the Thai army was called. Idol had to be sedated, reportedly with a tranquilizer dart, and wheeled out of the country strapped to a gurney. As mentioned earlier, that rampage nearly ended in prison. Instead, it became a surreal warning shot. Stage fit at 70. Flash forward, and the man who once raged across hotel balconies is now sipping tea and doing squats before shows. Billy's transformation didn't happen overnight, but today his lifestyle is built around discipline and longevity. He follows a consistent workout routine, maintains a California sober approach, abstaining from hard drugs and most alcohol, and prioritizes his health like a professional athlete. "This is my instrument," he says of his body, and he treats it that way. Instead of cocaine, it's cardio. Instead of late-night benders, it's early gym sessions and herbal teas to preserve his voice. It's a striking contrast, but one that keeps him thriving on stage. Friends say he's developed gentle habits, keeping journals, reading history books, and choosing quiet family nights over Hollywood parties. Science fiction, poetry, and the soft side of snarl. Behind the sneer and leather jacket, Idol is a surprisingly reflective guy. A lover of science fiction since childhood, he famously modeled his Dancing with Myself music video after the Omega Man, imagining himself rocking out alone in a zombie apocalypse. He collects poetry books, dabbles in painting with his grandchildren, and has an encyclopedic knowledge of World War II history. He also geeks out on music tech, which helps explain why he made Cyberpunk in 1993, an electronic concept album so ahead of its time it confused fans and flopped. But that same project also made him one of the first major artists to print his email address in a CD booklet. A small detail, but one that shows Idol's instinct to blend artistry with modern tech, an approach that would keep him relevant decades later. The rocker who reads bedtime stories. Today, Billy Idol is a grandfather 4 times over, and proud of it. He's traded the back of limos for afternoons at Kids Pace Museum and bedtime story sessions over FaceTime. As mentioned in the intro, this contrast is jarring in the best way. The once notorious wild man now posts photos with his grandkids and reflects openly on how grateful he is to still be here. He knows many of his friends didn't make it. "One minute people were there, the next they weren't," he said about the darker days of the 80s scene. That survivor's guilt softened him. He no longer flirts with destruction, he flirts with peace. Giving back and cleaning up. While he's still got a rebellious streak, just ask his neighbors when he revs his Triumph Bonneville too loud, Idol has grown into someone who uses his voice for more than rock. He's been involved in environmental campaigns like Billy Never Idles in New York, cheekily encouraging drivers to turn off their engines. He's also done charity motorcycle rides for children's hospitals and worked with foundations like MusiCares. He might not wear his philanthropy on his sleeve, but the intent is there. Quietly and consistently, Billy's been making amends for the wildness, the damage, and the people he's lost along the way. Yet, while his lifestyle has become more balanced and mindful, the emotional core of Billy Idol's story isn't just about transformation. It's about the people who shaped that transformation, and the ones he nearly lost. Relationships and connections. For all his snarling swagger and rock god bravado, Billy Idol's most defining heartbreak didn't come from a critic or a career loss. It came from love. His nearly decade-long relationship with Perry Lister was more than a romance. It was a grounding force during his wildest years. Perry wasn't just his partner, she was a performer in his videos, the mother of his son Willem, and, as Idol admits, the woman he truly loved. But fame, infidelity, and addiction don't leave much room for loyalty. When Perry discovered his betrayal in 1988 and walked away, Billy spiraled. That emotional fallout became the haunting heartbeat of Sweet 16, a love song disguised as a gothic ballad. It wasn't just about regret, it was a confession. And while Idol has since reflected publicly on how badly he messed up, that chapter remains a wound he carries with both remorse and maturity. Not long after that breakup, during the chaos of his infamous Thailand meltdown, he met Linda Mattis, a fleeting connection that led to the birth of his daughter, Bonnie Blue. Unlike his more public parenting with Willem, Idol kept Bonnie's existence relatively private. Raised by her mother, Bonnie eventually developed her own life, and today she's a yoga instructor and mother of two, making Billy a four-time grandfather. Through the years, Idol also maintained deep friendships with fellow rebels like Joan Jett, with whom he still tours, and reconciled with former bandmate Tony James after decades of creative distance. These relationships, both broken and mended, reflect the depth behind the leather. Still, for a man so emotionally raw in private, Billy Idol was always calculating in business, and when it came to protecting his music, he played the game like a street fighter with a record deal. Income and net worth. Billy Idol's net worth in 2025 is estimated at $60 million. It is a testament to his enduring presence in the music industry. His wealth stems from multiple income streams, over 40 million albums sold, consistent touring revenue, and licensing deals. His 2025 album, Dream Into It, and the accompanying It's a Nice Day to Tour Again with Joan Jett have further bolstered his earnings. Additionally, Idol has appeared in films like The Wedding Singer and Heavy Metal 2000. These roles have contributed to his financial portfolio. Yet, while his financial success is notable, the real story lies in how he channels his wealth into his personal life, particularly in his choice of homes. These homes reflect both his rock star past and his present-day transformation. Real estate. Billy Idol's real estate story reflects the full arc of his transformation, from reckless rebel to reflective rock legend. His current home is a Mediterranean-style mansion tucked in the Hollywood Hills. It is a far cry from the chaos of his earlier life. Valued at roughly $4 million, the home features panoramic views, warm wood paneling, and a stone fireplace that gives the living space a surprisingly serene, almost cabin-like atmosphere. It's the kind of place you might expect to find a writer or philosopher, not the former king of punk-infused sneers. But that's the point. Idol designed it to be a retreat from the noise. It's where he reads history books, journals quietly, and FaceTimes with his grandkids. For a man once synonymous with destruction, it's a space of healing. In contrast, his former rental in the Hollywood Hills during the late 80s was the epicenter of indulgence. That property, complete with a quirky poolside water wheel, hosted wild parties, rock star drop-ins, and more than a few regrets. It was pure Idol, loud, eccentric, and constantly on the edge of collapse. And while not a home he owned, the hotel suite in Bangkok during his infamous 1989 bender deserves a place in this list. The damage he caused there led to his forced sedation and deportation. It was an incident that haunted him for years. He often compares it to being metaphorically tied down by his own demons. Yet of all his properties, it's the quiet visit back to his childhood home in Patchogue, New York, that shows the deepest shift. Idol stood outside the modest house, taking it in with a kind of full-circle reverence. The boy who once felt like a misfit had become a man fully aware of just how far he'd come. Still, even in peace, there's one part of Billy that never fully calms, and you can hear it revving before you see it coming. Vehicles and cars. Billy Idol's love for vehicles has always leaned more toward rebellion than luxury. He wasn't the type to sit quietly in the back of a limo. He wanted to feel the engine, own the moment, and occasionally crash straight through it. When it comes to cars, Idol has an eye for Americana. His 1967 Chevrolet El Camino made a dramatic appearance in his 2021 music video for Bitter Taste. It was a reflective track about mortality and the crash that nearly ended his life. The car itself, rugged and nostalgic, served as a visual metaphor for survival and aging. He's also owned a rare 1929 Chevrolet Phantom and a Corvette. These rides are true to his rock and roll image, but carry that touch of classic cool that says, "I've lived through it all, and I still ride proud." But the real story, the one that changed everything, was always tied to his motorcycles. Idol's 1985 Harley-Davidson FXWG Wide Glide, affectionately named Bone Shaker, was both a symbol of freedom and a near-death sentence, as mentioned earlier. These days he cruises on a Triumph Bonneville, still loud, still fast, but with a different kind of awareness behind the throttle. As for private jets, yachts, or helicopters, that's never really been his lane. Idol might have flown in them during peak stardom, but his legend was never built on excess. It was built on edge. No billion-dollar fleets or super yachts, just him, a motorcycle, and the open road. Yet the most fascinating part of Billy Idol's story isn't in the vehicles he's crashed or cruised. It's in the man who emerged from the wreckage. He is still snarling, still standing, and more self-aware than ever. Current lifestyle. In 2025, Billy Idol is doing something most wild rockers never get to do: age with fire still in his eyes. His new album, Dream Into It, is a raw, autobiographical dive into decades of love, loss, excess, and hard-won peace. He's back on tour with longtime friend Joan Jett, snarling into stadium mics and proving that nearly losing it all only made his voice stronger. He's also a four-time grandfather, a man who once ran from stability, now embracing it. As mentioned earlier, you're just as likely to find him playing with his granddaughter at a museum as you are hearing him growl through Rebel Yell on stage. And yes, Terminator 2 could have had Billy as its villain, but in the end, he's become something far more compelling: a survivor, a storyteller, and a punk with purpose. He's not just dancing with himself anymore, he's dancing with time, with memory, and with meaning. Let us know in the comments if you loved or hated Billy Idol's wild ride. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out more stories on the screen now. There's always more than meets the leather.